this is essentially the magic wand that, if it was, that would be amazing, but it's my magic wand for how to address some of these imprints. So HDT stands for Homeopathic Detox Therapy. So they are potentized versions of the offending item as such. So whether that is a potentized version of the combined pill or the IVF, it has been taken in substance and potentized so that we are able to use it to signal to the body to clear. So it's not like a detox when we talk about parasite detox or we're killing things off and removing. What we're able to do with those things in homeopathic form is to essentially, the way I explain it is like point a big red arrow at the thing in our body that needs to shift, because again, the body has kind of learned to balance around it. It's created a sort of new route through and almost forgotten it's there, which is why we now have this pattern of symptoms. So we remind the body by returning the remedy to it that this is where we got stuck, this is where the shift is, and then essentially ask it to lift that blanket so we can see what's underneath. We signal to the body this is what needs to go, whilst also supporting the organs and the bowel and the symptoms so that it is comfortable and the body is able to drain. Because often, if this is the moment where it all went wrong, this is the moment where everything is holding as well. So we need to teach the body to release. And it can be a really effective way of doing that gently, because the problem is there is no, as far as I'm aware, there's no other way we can get these things out.
Hey friends, welcome back to PCOS Unfiltered, Nourish, Heal, Thrive. I'm your host, Lindsie, and today we're diving deep into a conversation that's going to change the way you think about your hormones, your health, and what normal really means. My guest, Tori Sorrell-Cook, is an endocrine health specialist and international homeopath who helps women understand why their hormones have felt chaotic for years, even when their lab results say everything looks fine. Her approach combines hormone mapping, functional insight, and homeopathic detox therapy, HDT, to uncover and clear hidden hormonal imprints left behind by stress, contraception, and environmental toxins. In this episode, Tori shares how her own journey with endometriosis led her to discover that the body can unlearn symptoms, not just manage them. We unpack the fascinating links between viral, chemical, and emotional imprints on hormonal health, how the pill and other medications can repattern the body's signals, and what it really means to create safety in the body so healing can happen. Now, as a reminder, the content shared on PCOS Unfiltered is for informational and educational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are not intended to serve as medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, exercise, or treatment plan. The information shared is based on personal experience and expert interviews and is not a substitute for professional medical guidance. Okay, if you're managing your symptoms but still know deep down that something feels off, or if you're just curious about how to work with your body instead of against it, you're going to love this conversation. Welcome to Tori. I am so excited. I love this. First of all, I feel like there's some of the stuff I need to learn more about, which I'm excited to learn from you today and have our listeners learn from you. But I think we just really hit it off because we share a lot of the same ideas and things around healing. So can't wait to just dive in. So let's do that. So for anyone that's kind of, new to this world, what drew you into women's hormone health, and what helped you realize the body can unlearn symptoms rather than just manage them, which I love. I love that, by the way. I love this topic.
Unlearning. Yeah, we're always unlearning what we've been taught. Well, I think it was quite a long journey, because I think actually my journey started way back when I had a diagnosis of endometriosis myself in my 20s, and took quite a traditional route, actually. Listened to the doctors, did as I was told, had several misdiagnoses along the way, and then had quite a sort of heavy set of hormonal treatments. Essentially, which were tricky, like they are for most women. It's not a new story. Your listeners will understand. Um,
Mhm.
but I was really lucky in that I was always told I would struggle to conceive, and I didn't. So kind of pregnancy turned things around a bit for me because of the hormone shifts. But then once I'd had place, and therefore I kind of sought alternative treatment for myself, which meant that actually I then essentially have never I was cured. I say cured. I lived symptom free until today because I saw a wonderful homeopath who said, look, we really need to look at what's going on with your hormones. We did a kind of detox of the pill, which is where my learning started, and I had such transformational results that kind of stayed with me. And although I didn't step into that field immediately, I've ended up here because I just think women need more choices
Mhm.
and more options because the traditional route doesn't work for everyone. And I think, we're told, well, that's it, that's all you've got. And I think, well, no, I've lived this and I've walked a different route and I've seen different ways, and there is no one case fits all, which is why I'm so passionate about what I do now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so many women can relate to your story, especially I think too, you said the kind of misdiagnoses and I feel like that's very common with PCOS too. I mean, I've talked to women that like they might have been told at some point they had cysts on their ovaries, but then they didn't fit, like they weren't overweight. So I think the doctor just kind of either misdiagnosed them or dismissed them. Now we know that yes, you don't even need the cyst on your ovaries, but and we know a lot more about it today than we did before too. But I think that's still just it's very common um, to I think in a lot of women's hormonal health issues.
And with the trouble is, I think with the traditional model is that we're always looking for the symptoms that make us the same. So do you fit these? And because that's how a diagnosis is made, we have to have symptoms in common and you have to
Mhm.
fit X number of them. So we're always looking for the commonality. And
Yeah.
actually the lens I now look through is not what makes you the same, what makes you different. How do your symptoms express themselves? So, if you're experiencing that dysfunction, it doesn't matter, like you said, whether you're gaining the weight or whether we can actually visually see something. It's about the experience that you have day to day and the symptoms that you suffer through. And I think, unfortunately, because there's a lot of pressure on the medical model as well, there just isn't time to individualize. And that's why things are missed and people feel that they've fallen through the gaps.
Yeah. It's very unfortunate. I mean, because I mean, I've learned this along the way myself, but I mean, it can even go back to how you were born, right? A vaginal birth versus a C-section, how long were you breastfed? Like all those things now can, or, from then can actually affect your health later on.
And even your mother's state. So there's some really interesting research
Yes.
I've been reading at the moment about, actually if you conceive in estrogen dominance, then we are we are passing that along now.
Hmm.
In my field, we often talk about your kind of genetic inheritance, but we're catching up in the science of it now, where we can see, actually, let's look at what mum's hormone patterns were like at conception, and what does this
Yeah.
then mean for the children that come after, and we're beginning to see those links and those patterns.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, we hear a lot about hormone imbalance. I feel like hormone health, hormone balance your hormones, like all that stuff. You go on social media, I feel like it's all over the place. Um, but we do hear much less about how the signals between the brain and ovaries can be disrupted. So, what actually knocks those signals off track in the first place?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's hard to pin down sometimes, isn't it? And I think we sort of touched on one of them there. I think people don't think about, which is not what have I done here and now, what happened before or what happened much earlier on. So
Mhm.
genetic imprints are obviously one thing that we need to look at. Also viruses. I'm seeing a lot of people now in my clinic kind of with chronic illness and hormone imbalance that have viral imprints. So Epstein-Barr virus is really big, and when we're
Yeah.
looking at that case history, I'm talking to people who go, well, actually, I had bad tonsillitis when I was a child, and then But in my 20s, yeah, there was this sort of glandular fever episode. And that imprint will, when we track it, have caused these imbalances further on, which of course people don't make the links, and we're not talking about enough.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've got genetics, viral imprints, and then of course um, chemical imprints, how we're living. I
Yeah.
think again the conversations are happening, aren't they, about the chemicals in our environment and the estrogenic things that we are surrounded by and plastics in our feeds. But we can't ignore that that is having an impact on how our bodies are working and processing and clearing and leading to where we are. And then the big one that I work with tends to be um, drug imprints. I
Mm-hmm.
would say, because I specialize in hormone imbalance like yourself, but I'm quite generalist in that actually it may be somebody with endometriosis in their 20s or a woman with perimenopause in her 40s, but actually the impact will have been the same if she was exposed to the same endocrine disruptors. We see the same patterns. And the combined pill and IVF medications are really up there in terms of this kind of repatterning imprint.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like for some of those that you mentioned, especially like the environmental stuff and the viruses, we were chatting before we hit record, but about, COVID and stuff. And I feel like whether it was from the virus itself or from the vaccine, I feel like we're probably just now starting to kind of see the impacts of some of the stuff as it's changed even over the last, 20 years. But it's very interesting to see what might still be to come, with our
Absolutely,
health.
because we haven't seen it all yet. We don't know how it
Hmm.
rolls out. I know, COVID's really topical, isn't it? We recognise it. It was, like we said, in the relatively near history,
Yeah.
but I saw a lot of women in clinic quite quickly after vaccination, but also after having had the virus, who were having lots of issues with heavy bleeds. The body again,
Hmm.
I think we see it as a negative, which it is, but it is the way a body clears as well. A bleed is one of the way a body can get something out. So actually, when we've got this viral imprint, or when we've had something popped into the body and is working in our immune system, women seeing almost immediately those hormonal shifts as the body tries to respond and rebalance.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, like you said, everybody's different. So everybody came to that place differently. And so how they clear it is going to happen differently and at a different pace, right?
Absolutely. And I think the thing is, it's about how well our body adapts, doesn't it? And
Mhm.
our bodies are really resilient. And I say to women all the time, we have to trust that our body has an innate ability to do so many things. And a lot of the
Yeah.
time that is rebalance. We can take all this stuff in, but there is a point when the cup becomes full.
Yeah.
And some of it is about, I spend a lot of time when we're discussing these impacts, looking at them in the hierarchy, which are the ones that are the biggest. And actually those viral imprints tend to sit a little bit lower down, as do the environmental ones, whereas actually the endocrine disrupting medications like IVF, the pill, SSRI sit right at the top of that
Mm.
hierarchy for me, and they're often the ones I need to clear first to really begin to see the picture.
Yeah. 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 Oh my God. I was on the pill for 20 plus years. So it's been amazing getting off of it and seeing what my body can actually do. I mean, and I'm in a total different space with my health now. But I'm like, oh, if I would have known this years ago, then yeah. But
Well, I
I
think
was
we're a
on it
similar
first.
age, and I just think the education wasn't there, was it? I don't think anyone
Hmm.
ever, again, I was on the combined pill, as many women, in their 30s, 40s, 50s were from teenage years. And I don't think anyone ever sat me down and sort of said what the side effects might be, or how it was changing, or that actually it did also work on my brain chemistry as well as the period pain I was trying to balance out. And those conversations weren't being had. So I had no idea what I was signing up for, if I'm honest.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember when I first like was thinking about getting off of it, I spoke to my gynecologist and she discouraged me from it. And she's like, "Oh, do you remember what your periods were like before that?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, think about that." And then she was like, "It actually prevents ovarian cancer and breast cancer." But again, yes, didn't explain a lot of other things to me as well.
Even on a very basic level, no one talks about like the nutrients that might be being depleted. I mean, it's really basic, isn't it? Actually, if you're going to take this, are you aware that you may have, on the flip side, some nutrients that aren't being uptaken as well, and you could consider supplementing this. That even wasn't a conversation.
Yeah. You use something called HDT in your work. I'm excited to hear about this. So can you explain in simple terms what HDT is and why it can make such a profound difference for conditions like PCOS, endometriosis, or longstanding cycle issues?
Yes, so this is essentially the magic wand. Not quite. If it was, that would be amazing. But it's my magic wand for how to address some of these imprints. So HDT stands for Homeopathic Detox Therapy. And so what it was developed by a gentleman called Ton Jansen, who's been practicing for many years, and he teaches across the world now as well. And he uses homeopathic remedies. So they are potentized versions of the offending item as such. So whether that is a potentized version of the combined pill or the IVF, it has been taken in substance and potentized so that we are able to use it to signal to the body to clear. So it's not like a detox when we talk about parasite detox or we're killing things off and removing. What we're able to do with those things in homeopathic form is to essentially, the way I explain it is like point a big red arrow at the thing in our body that needs to shift, because again, the body has kind of learned to balance around it. It's created a sort of new route through and almost forgotten it's there, which is why we now have this pattern of symptoms. So we remind the body by returning the remedy to it that this is where we got stuck. This is where the shift is. And then essentially ask it to lift that blanket so we can see what's underneath. And we do that in the same way, in some ways, people understand traditional detox. We signal to the body this is what needs to go, whilst also supporting the organs and the bowel and the symptoms so that it is comfortable and the body is able to drain. Because often, if this is the moment where it all went wrong, this is the moment where everything is holding as well. So we need to teach the body to release. And it can be a really effective way of doing that gently, because the problem is there is no, as far as I'm aware, there's no other way we can get these things out.
Yeah. Understanding, of course, like we were talking about, everybody's different. Does it work pretty quickly? Is that?
Well, everybody is different. So again, it's that sometimes, sometimes it amazes me and I go, wow, okay, that was fast.
I absolutely loved this conversation with Tori Sorrell-Cook, and I hope you did too. I love how she reminds us that true healing isn't about forcing the body into balance. It's about helping it remember what balance feels like. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to connect with Tori online at innatewellnesscenter.com and follow her on Instagram at Innate Wellness with Tori. I'll link those both in the show notes for you. Thank you for listening, for sharing this space with me, and for continuing to rewrite your health story one episode at a time. Until next time, keep nourishing, healing, and thriving. You got this.